Good evening. Good evening. It is Tuesday, January the 11th of 2022. Glad to be in the land of the living. Um, we are live on Spotify, live on GrooveRadioDetroit.com, live on Facebook, on my page, Sunshine Camila, Kamela. We are live on YouTube. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. It is the name of the show. Welcome to Keeping It Real Conversations with Sunshine. I am your host, Camila, aka Sunshine. The main purpose that I live by has gone through for the moment has been I believe in 6 degrees of separation. You're one person away, one advice away, and one help away from where you need to be in your destiny. It has been proven since this show began. Tonight, I have always have special guests. I always have wonderful people that I feel like the world needs to know their story, nor their just them in general. I believe that every person that has graced this platform is heaven sent, and there's a reason that they're here. So today we have Maria Young, and I also let you know after I do my bio, I'll let you know how we connected. So she's a former collegiate All-American basketball player from Asheville, North Carolina. She is now a playwright, screenwriter, director, and producer who is in the middle of her first major production deal with a local theater company in her hometown. She is also a community organizer and the creator of the Young and Gifted internship aimed at providing Black and Brown youth the opportunity to be a part of theater in all capacities. So I got a message from Main Event saying, hey, we need to make this happen. I said, what are you talking about? So he sent me a link, and her information comes up on Instagram. I said, yeah, this is dope. I definitely need to talk to her. And so this is where the 6 degrees of separation come in. Again, my big brother, Main Event, sending me people to talk to. And once I read, once I look, and I feel in my spirit that, yeah, this is definitely it. This is what we need, especially with our youth, to give back to them. So welcome to the show, Miss Young.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
I'm so excited that you are here. So the first line said of your bio that you were an All-American basketball player.
Yes.
So how was that journey of your life?
It was amazing. I can't really complain about it at all. I started playing basketball when I was about 5 or 6 years old here in Asheville, and just being on the AAU travel circuit, I got to travel and meet different people and play in different places. I've played as far as Chicago, down in Florida, in different things, and that definitely assisted in my recruiting process. So when it all came down to it, I settled for Limestone College, now known as Limestone University. It's one of the major Division II schools down in Gaffney, South Carolina, and started my collegiate career there. I just kind of worked up through the ranks. I didn't really know what to expect about college basketball. I just kind of knew like I was just gonna go in and work hard every day, and and just be the best in my role that I was given.
So with basketball, do you feel like I always ask the guys this? Do you feel like basketball was one of the things that God used to save your life?
I think it, yeah, definitely. I've gone through a lot of things internally and mentally, and basketball has always been the outlet for me to kind of channel those emotions. I think I ended up leaning on basketball a little bit too much at one point in my life. when I was in college and just trying to transition from, a teenager to a young adult. There were a lot of things that I didn't understand about life and myself. And instead of kind of working through those, I just channeled it everything into basketball because I knew I wouldn't really have to deal with it. And then when it got to the point where I didn't have ball anymore, I had to start from scratch and and build a tap into my faith and my ancestral guidance and just kind of build myself from there.
So, which on this show we do a lot of conversations about counseling.
Hmm.
So, was there any moments where, if you wasn't actually in a physical counseling session, you had moments where you could talk to your coaches and things like that?
I wasn't really comfortable talking to my coaches about a lot of things, some personal things, just because I wanted to just kind of channel it and deal with it on my own. And it wasn't just my coaches; there was things that I didn't talk about with my family, my teammates, my friends. So I just kind of tried to keep that side and that vulnerability and that brokenness away from everybody. But I was actually in college for 5 years, and my fifth year was just solely dedicated to finishing up my degree and making sure that I walked across that stage and ultimately got what I came for. And that's when I started my therapy sessions.
Okay, I understand. So, in school, while you were in college, or actually before, how did you have the desire to get into writing or um, doing what you do now?
So I come from my family, I call them my tribe, but I come from a tribe of intellects and very educated individuals and people who take pride in education. There's professors and authors and artists within my family, and so that's the scope that I grew up under. And even when I was going through things in high school and in college, I would always write them down. I never really did anything with them, but it was just another way for me to get my feelings out. And so it was just really a natural progression. Once I transitioned out of basketball, that I would just kind of fall into that. And then plus I love reading books, and then I'm a film head. I love to pay attention to who the screenwriters are, and then how dialogue makes me feel.
Hmm. So, with how long was it after school that you started doing filming or getting to playwright?
It was about 3 years. So I graduated in 2014, and then I moved back home. And at that point, I was still involved with basketball through training and coaching and different things like that. But the more that I got into coaching, I felt distant with basketball. And I was more so focused on the young ladies and the young women on where their future was headed, more so than wins and losses. And at that time, I started writing a book. And then once I wrote my book, it just progressed into play and screenwriting.
Okay. So the girl you basically said coaching with all the I I remember when we were in school and playing sports, and I played everything basically.
Mm.
Um I want to say education was the main focus. It was sports became, like you said, the outlet for me. It was to stay out of trouble,
Right.
keep busy, um, and camaraderie outside of the nerds, as I would
Mhm.
say. People who was come from different backgrounds, and maybe their conversation wasn't about education. It was basically I'm living day by day when I'm on this court, when I'm on the field, when I'm doing all of these things, and we all was a melting pot.
Right.
So when you begin to see the girls come in for you to coach them, what are the first things, or what are the first signs that you seen like these girls need help?
It was just like you said. All of them come from different backgrounds, vastly different backgrounds. So they all needed different things. So you would have a young lady that came from a very affluent background, two-parent household, but there was things where she was trying to live up to the expectations of what her parents wanted for her life. And then there would be, there was another individual who came from a single parent household, had a lot of traumas and um things that shouldn't be on a high school student. So she had to grow up a lot quicker than her time. So just me being able to pull from my own personal experiences, um, that's how I was able to decipher who needed what from me. And then when you do that, a lot of times it takes away from the game aspect of it, because at the end of the day, I just want my players to be healthy, to lead healthy lives, and then move into the future being able to, to go and get anything that they want to do, to live their dreams out. So that's how I was able to kind of decipher some things.
So for those who don't know exactly what entails into playwriting.
Ooh, well, uh it's a lot. It's a lot. But the first thing is just if you have a passion about something, or you have an idea, that's kind of where you have to start. And I'm a very spiritual being. So I just pull from, and I just move off of what God places in my path.
Mhm.
And I feel like my natural progression through screen and playwriting is what I'm called to do. So just being able to know myself and know how things are feeling, and just being able to cultivate the story from that. So that's really the foundation of everything that I do. And then all of the technical pieces of it, the formatting, the characters, making sure that the theme, or the thing that you want to get across, making sure that it's clear, and having a clear and concise understanding of who you want this message or this story to reach. And ultimately, when you pour those basics into it, it'll find who it's meant for.
And that's great because again, a lot of times when we go into writing, sometimes it's just random thoughts and
Right.
you writing them down, and sometimes you have to go back like, what did I just write?
Mhm.
Where was I at when I wrote that? What thought prior, like, okay, what was going on in my life when I wrote this?
Right.
And so with the screenplays and with playwriting, how do you figure out what story you want to portray? Like, I know you said, God guides you into
Mhm.
what you want to say or what the theme of that play may be. The one that's in production now, what was your thought process then?
So the one that's currently in production right now is titled Transition,
Mm,
and that is a story that's plucked right from my life.
right.
So I wrote a memoir in 2017 entitled Lost in the Game, which navigates, my trials and triumphs of uh, being a Black Star collegiate athlete at a PWI, and how to navigate that world with having, little to no identity outside of basketball. So there's a specific part of that book that I kind of leave a little bit vague and kind of up for interpretation. And
Hmm.
so transition is based off of my fifth year in college, where I'm dealing with depression and anxiety and not really understanding what that is and why I'm dealing with it. And then coming into my own as far as embracing, accepting my sexuality, accepting that my vision for my life may not completely line up with what my family may think it should be. Um, and so all of those different themes are in this current production. But to answer your original question, I'm a writer who likes to pull from personal and shared experiences. So things that I've been through, or things that I see people around me going through. And that's, what I like to convey across.
Understandable. Um, I know you have brought up a lot of transitioning is a awesome title because it can go anywhere with anyone with
Mm,
what they're transitioning from, whether it's um, transitioning from being single to married. There's a transition from, like you said, from one grade to another, from
mm,
high school to college, and that can be a scary moment when you
right.
really be honest with yourself, um, especially for those who had to transition to a different state that they've never been before.
Mm,
And those come into a place of um, nervous, anxious, anxiety, all of these things all playing into I'm here now. What am I supposed to do? Because now we don't have our parents here to tell us it's time for you to get up. You got
mm.
class. Or with you guys being in college and playing basketball, you guys had a strict schedule, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, our life was basketball 24/7. I mean, anybody who plays a collegiate sport on whether it's Division 1 through 3 or NAIA or JUCO, everybody knows. When you're a student athlete, that's a whole that comes with a whole different set of responsibilities and expectations. And part of the my memoir Lost in the Game was to serve as a vessel and a point of reference for young black athletes that are going through that transition, because I went into that very green and just kind of experiencing things and figuring things out as I went,
Mhm.
versus having conversations with certain people and being prepared as much as I possibly could be.
Absolutely. And it can be a scary moment. I think being on certain campuses, I've seen some things
Hmm.
that um, I think I mentioned it before. It was the first time I've been around diverse atmospheres, but it was the first time that the college I was at, it wasn't a lot of us, for one.
Hmm.
The majority of them were athletes.
Right.
And one particular, my freshman year, this particular city allowed the Ku Klux Klan to march down our, as we call it, the diag.
Hmm.
And so this is a culture shock for me because not that I never believed in the Ku Klux Klan, I thought that was over. I thought what we read in the book was just in the book
Right.
until I experienced it myself.
Hmm.
And the rage that everyone experienced that day will never be erased.
Right.
And it was an unsaid conversation to all of us. Don't walk around this city by yourself, let alone two or three by yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
um, they're here. You already know by history what the purpose is.
Right.
So don't get caught up. I
Right.
wanted to leave that night. And my grandmother, I called her, and my grandmother said, "You are not leaving." It was too many people that fought for you to even have this opportunity. Now learn the lessons and beat them at their own game.
Right.
So again, being in different atmospheres, different places, you learn things that cannot be explained in a book.
Yeah. And it's I had a similar experience going to Limestone. But what I am grateful for is my family made sure that me and my cousins, we were all aware of the things that they had experienced and the things that they had gone through. So
Absolutely.
whenever we stepped out into the world, we already knew what to expect, and we already knew what the game was. and they just made sure that they equipped us with all of the tools to be able to be our best selves and still accomplish the things that we wanted to. But Limestone, when I was there, it was the basketball team and the track team. They were and maybe a couple of other students that were sprinkling in there, but they were the only other people on campus that looked like us.
Yes.
Um, and then the faculty, it wasn't many of us on the faculty. The town was predominantly black, but the school was predominantly white. So it was it was a bit of a weird, awkward feeling to kind of feel more comfortable out and about versus having being on campus and having the isolation of like your friends and being in that campus atmosphere.
So
But
was
feeling
that
like,
school a private school or was it one of the community?
no, it's a private school.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a culture shock as well. Even though my high school was predominantly white, there was still a sense of tribe and a sense of pride there. But being kind of thrown into that atmosphere, and then not having your your advisor, not being able to really speak to them about it because they wouldn't know anything about what you're talking about or how you
Absolutely.
feeling. Yeah.
I understand. So our school had a summer program. So maybe 2 weeks after we graduated, it was a select few. They had it called the bridge program.
Mhm.
So in essence, it was the transitioning period from high school to college. So we were taking college courses in the summertime while everybody else was chilling for the summer. We were already in school. We were already acclimated to the campus. And we still had our moments like getting on the schedule. Nobody woke us up or anything like that. You still had
Right.
to learn. Look, you got a 7 o'clock class. You can't be up all night and studying and doing all of these things. So it was different transitioning from your independence at home to a different type of independence.
Right.
And at this moment is where you're learning yourself what you can and cannot do, especially when you might have had boundaries to say, look, you got to be in the house by the 11 o'clock. You got to make sure that dishes and things were done before you can do it. On college, you don't got all that. You have to
Mm-mm.
really discipline yourself.
Yeah.
And that first semester was kind of rocky. But then after a moment where you get the pep talk from your parents, like, look, you didn't go up there to party.
Right.
You're here to get an education. So transitioning is a awesome title because it could go with anything that has anything to do with getting from point A to point B. So
Right.
that I think that is really good. And the point that you giving back to the community is one of the stand up opportunities I feel that any human being can be a part and do. So, outside of playwriting, outside of writing, outside of all the things that you do for filming, what part of are you doing to give back to the community?
So part of so just to kind of stick with the playwriting before I move into something else. Part of an important piece of my fellowship and partnership with the Asheville Community Theater here in my hometown was the creation of the internship, the Young and Gifted internship,
Uh-huh.
because our city is so vibrant and full of young creators of color, but they just don't have the resources necessarily to
Uh-huh.
make things happen. Or there might be a student of color who's interested in knowing more, but we they don't feel welcome or accepted to even step in that building.
Okay.
And that was something that was very, very, very important for me, that any production or any play that I put on in that building, I want to have one or two interns with me that have any interest in film, any interest in
Right,
theater.
right. Theater.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that could be costume design, lighting, sound, writing, directing, producing, whatever they might be interested in. And they get to be a part of all of the pre-production meetings, the table reads, the cast rehearsals. They serve as like my right hand man on the premiere weekend. So everything that it takes to get that production from my page onto the main stage, they have a direct hand in, and it's also a paid internship as well because they're dedicating and committing their time to the production just like anybody else. So that was a huge and important piece for me to bridge that gap and say, hey, I like it's not enough just for me to be able to put my productions on here. Like the resources that you guys are blessed to have need to reach far beyond me and reach the people who want to sit in those seats but don't feel welcome to even step into the building.
So there are they have they cut back on the arts like in like high school, middle school?
There are a couple of high schools here in Asheville that still have a vibrant arts program. But for the most part, the arts programs they're established outside of the school system.
Okay.
So here locally, in our Black and Brown communities, we have multiple ones. Word on the Street is one that comes to mind, where they literally their purpose is to be there to help these kids cultivate their ideas and cultivate the arts and keep the arts alive.
Okay. Because I know here, it's been a while. They have kind of cut back in the arts in schools, and then they tried to do like a performing arts actual school.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's a lot of community centers that put on things like you were saying that
Right,
whether it's at painting or if they're into music, if they're into production and things of that nature, which is really good because that can open up doors for other things later on when it comes to getting into arts, period, whether you
right.
want to, want to act, and which is good because the when I think about it, our first acting, I want to say gigs was in church,
Yeah.
learning Easter plays
The
and
Easter
speeches
plays,
and
the native.
all of these things that we did was I can recall moments when my mom was telling me tips on how to get over stage fright.
Right,
That's why I'm so confident now that I'm not afraid because of course I learned these as a younger person, which made me want to get into arts, made me want to do music and things of that nature. Not seeing like the whiz and things of that nature. And I was like, oh, I want to do
yeah,
that.
that's what I
That's
want to do. Yeah. So it's just like you said, and I feel like the arts, tie everything together. Like my wife and I, we every year we have a service project that we do around the holidays where we give back, and we don't really make a big deal out of it. But we'll talk to our friends and family and say like, hey, this is what we want to do. Can you help us out? And then there's certain little community projects that we do. And then some of my childhood friends that I've grown up with, we've done back to school drives with free haircuts and school supplies, and had movie nights in our community, and just opened up to have some community discussions and different things like that. So I just feel like when job puts you in a certain position in life, you have to pay it forward. Like there's somebody that's coming behind us, or there's somebody that's looking at us for some type of inspiration, and for you to be able to take the gifts that he's blessed you with and give them back, and make sure that you can pull somebody else forward or uplift somebody. I feel like that's my ultimate purpose. I just happen to do it through writing and community projects and different things like that.
which is one of the main things is helping connecting putting that gap between one another. This is what the show is all about, is connecting. If Maine wouldn't have, connected with you and Maine telling me about you,
Yeah,
there could be
love
somebody
man.
else in your right in your area that needs or might not even know about what you're doing. And they could be like, hey, I need to get in touch with her. I got some funds. Praise the Lord for money. Hallelujah.
Absolutely.
To really fund and help the mission. And
Right,
so again, this is why we have these type of conversations, because no one knows until you start talking.
right,
um and even in sometimes we have all these stigmas of what something is supposed to look like. And it doesn't have to be the way everybody has painted the picture to be. It can
right.
be totally different. So on the average, how long does it take you to actually do a playwright?
Well, let's see. Transition actually took longer than normal. Because I rewrote it a couple times, and then with the challenge of COVID, it actually didn't premiere when it was originally slated to. So once everything was kind of put on pause, I went back to the drawing board. But typically it takes me about 3 to 6 months to write the script and bring everything together.
So when it comes down to like picking your characters, do you already have a person in mind when you do it, or are you just going off of this is how I want this character to be, and then when you do the casting, you figure out who's who?
So with my casting, I always have an idea. I want the foundation of the character as I've written it to stay the same.
Okay.
But once I go through the casting process, and like I said, our area is very vibrant with Black creators. It's just sometimes it takes a little bit longer to cast because I'm specifically like the characters for transition. They're Black people. They have conversations that only our culture will be able to
Understand.
understand.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so that sometimes, because I'm in the area that I'm in, it just takes me a little bit longer to find people. Um, but I always want the foundation of the character as I've written it to stay the same. But I also, like I tell my cast all the time, I want the character to fit their natural rhythm. So I don't mind if they, while they're reading the script, if they ad lib something or they add something else to what I've already written, because I want it to just feel natural and flow with their rhythm and their cadence as much as it is on the page. So it's really a combination of both.
Okay. So the premiere of Transition was when?
So we had a film stage reading December 20th of 2020. Um because that was supposed to be the original stage play production, but because of COVID, I had to figure out, what could I do in its time to share this work and this project with people.
Okay.
um and I, in collaboration with the Asheville Community Theater, that's what we were able to come up with. Everything was social distance. We just couldn't have all of the elements of a full production. But I actually enjoyed that being the first introduction to people, because it was a more intimate setting, because it's literally just the characters in the story. There's no other elements of it.
Okay.
But for the full stage play production, that will premiere April 1st of 2022 of this year.
Okay. Well, we make sure that we stay tuned for that one.
Yeah,
And send as much support as we can.
I
Um,
appreciate it.
absolutely. The other thing was, after Transition has this moment, what do you feel might be your next topic, your next moment where, look, I need to write about this?
So I'm currently in the midst of writing another stage play right now. and a screenplay. The stage play is entitled Through Troubled Waters, and it's about a young couple who's been together. They've been together for quite some time, but in the midst of the pandemic, in the midst of COVID, having to pause and then it just be them two in the house together, not being able to go anywhere. They start to ask really big questions about each other and come face with things that they've not talked about. And ultimately, they have to try and figure out, is this individual who I want to build the rest of my life with, or who I want to continue moving forward with?
Now, this is a really good question because, or a concept. I remember reading about the guy from, what is that singing show? The Voice.
Hmm.
And he said that his then fiance, he was like, I don't know if I'm gonna marry her because she's always in my face. Like they didn't have any time apart.
Hmm.
And he was like, I didn't know about this, I didn't know about that. And
Right.
then what becomes the question of the deal breaker, as we say, of I can't do this, I'm not about to do this. And here it goes with, do I have the ability to start over? Do I have the ability to be by myself?
Right.
Or can we figure the middle ground between what we can deal with and what we can't? And so it's a very legit question.
Right. And it's I can speak from experience with my wife and I. We've always built our relationship and our foundation on communication. We are very comfortable having tough, hard conversations. And so when we were in the midst of quarantine, we just kind of kept our natural routine. Now, of course, there were times where I was getting on her nerves and she was getting on my nerves. We just being in each other's space so much. But I can it that's kind of where the idea for Through Troubled Waters was birthed, because we used to always say, like, I couldn't imagine being in this situation, being in this space, literally being in quarantine, and it's not safe to go anywhere, and not be able to navigate it with my person, not being able to navigate it with the person that I've spent so much time with, and I'm wanting to, and I'm building my life with, and not being able to, to want to be in their presence, or just learning new things about them, or or and sometimes people grow apart whenever an individual has had time to sit and really navigate and get into what they're passionate about, or what they really and truly want out of life. And sometimes when they realize that, it doesn't look like the person that's sitting across from them. So
Yeah.
those are some of the things that I'm exploring in this new piece.
Um, I think I don't know, I think it was the first wave. Me and my current husband, we were getting ready to get married.
Mm,
And prior to that, I had contracted COVID and we were staying together while he was coming and going. And
mm,
I specifically said, you got to go to your mama's house. I'm going to be all right. And he looked at me in my face and was like, and so I'm about to be your husband. Who's going to take care of you?
right.
And it was like, I'm waiting for an answer. And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, no, I'm going to take care of you. And I
Right.
thank God to this day that he was here, because I'm thinking my first couple of days, I felt like Mike Tyson kicked my butt, like my
Yeah.
whole body. Like he just had me on the ring on the mat, like you ain't getting up. And
Yeah.
it was horrible,
Yeah. I
horrible.
I had a bout with COVID last December. when it was that winter wave that had
Yeah.
come through. And blessedly I had mild symptoms. I had lost my smell and my taste, and I was just really really fatigued. So I didn't go through a lot of the body aches and all of that, but I couldn't imagine like not having my person there and checking on me and making sure that I was, that I was good and I was okay.
That was called the pride thing. Pride.
Yeah,
I'm figuring that, look, my thing, personally, it was that too, but I didn't want to affect him.
exact right.
And so he was like, I'm good. I'm on my vitamins. I got, my mask. I got this and that. I'm going to take care of you. You are who I want to spend the rest of my life with.
Mm-hmm.
And when we say the vows, I don't think we really pay attention to the vows. To death do us part, or for sickness or health, and all of these things. And I'm not thinking this. I'm just like, I don't want to get you sick. I know I have it. I don't want to affect you. He's like, no, that's not what we're doing.
Yeah,
If I
and
say
that's
I love you and I'm in love with you, it is whatever. I'm
right.
gonna do this. And so he stayed every day. He made sure that I had my juices. I took what I needed to take. And within maybe day 7, day 8, maybe, I was feeling so much better. But I had the body aches. I had sore throat. I had the loss of taste and smell. I had
Mm-hmm.
a major headache all day long. I would take something, it'll come back. It was just horrible. I don't remember doing a lot of coughing or anything like that, but the other symptoms was enough.
Yeah,
So I get that one. That was a will be a great story to, especially during the pandemic. I don't see it going anywhere no time soon. That this is a needed conversation, even in the other part of it where we live. It only takes, I've been saying this for a minute, it only takes one person to affect your household. And
absolutely,
now that we're
absolutely.
seeing more kids, um, it's very important to even have that conversation.
Yeah,
Whether
it's a very scary and unfortunate time to be in. It's just like I this past Christmas was the first time that I had seen my family, and us being able to celebrate like we normally could, kind of, in 2 years, because I couldn't spend last Christmas with them because I was in quarantine. So it's just and I've suffered some losses within this time as well.
yeah,
I had a uncle pass away from COVID back in February, and then another uncle passed away in September from cancer. So going through these big emotional traumas and not being able to like physically hold my grandmother, or not being able to physically see my family, has been hard to navigate as well. um so it's just, I'm just praying and I'm just thinking about everybody who's having to directly or indirectly deal with COVID during this time. And I'm just ready for it, like most people, to just get on the other
so
side and
yeah,
for us to get back to some type of normalcy.
that in itself is, we always have, the people who, conspiracy theories and things of that nature. I've experienced it. I've seen people in the last month, 6-month old babies with it, 1, 2 year olds in the hospital with it. Um, and we know how you move, but
Right.
you don't know how everybody else is moving. And from Christmas, numbers went up. After New Year's, numbers went crazy. It's
Right.
like, I don't know what you guys are thinking, but even if you don't care about yourself, you got to care about everybody else that's around you, or
Right.
who will, be in your presence. My mom has undercurrent health issues. I'm in touching distance from her. And
Right.
I'm like, no, I'm the one going out. Me and my husband are the ones going out because we have jobs that's in the public that
Hmm.
I don't want to bring nothing home to my mom and she don't make it
Right.
because I'm being reckless.
Exactly.
That's not gonna sit right with me. So um it's those moments where you have to really cherish your loved ones, cherish those memories. One of my cousins told me something not too long ago that's still like ringing in my ears. Is you don't want to allow history to go into the grave and you have not explored it yet.
Mm.
Yeah, that was deep.
Yeah.
And he just said that a lot of times when we look at our elders, they have so much knowledge inside of them,
Mhm.
and we choose not to open the door. So when they pass away, a whole chapter of your family is gone
Right.
because nobody
And
else tried to find out.
yeah, and that's the thing that that I take pride in. I spend a lot of time with my family and my elders specifically because there's so much, like you said, there's so much knowledge and so much wisdom within them. And it's up to, not only is it up to the younger generations to spend time with them and get that, but it's also their the elders have to also be willing to understand that even though perspective sometimes may differ, that we're still in a meeting ground and in meeting in the middle of where we want our lives to progress to. And so I really take pride in spending a lot of time with my elders. And anytime I do any type of interview or panel or anything like that, I always say, I'm standing on someone else's shoulders. Like, I'm not here just based solely off of my own merit. I'm here because of the ancestral guidance, Jah's protection and guidance, and then the love and the tools that have been instilled in me from my family and the people around me. So if I'm not willing to budge and open myself up to hear that wisdom and that knowledge, I don't feel like I'll live a full life because I'm missing so much of that piece of what's here.
What, what did May just say? You
Oh,
grew up in Linden, New Jersey?
so what?
He, it said something about he tagged you. Um, he grew up in Linden, New Jersey.
Yeah,
There.
LND, as he used to call it.
Yeah. So again, we have so many people to look up to. Oh, he talking about you. Um, that we have to get back to that somehow, some way, somehow. Of us, I am a big stickler on the village that raised me,
Yes,
and it was the streets, it was my family, it was my church family, and it was my school. Everybody had a part in shaping me.
right,
And that's where, the neighborhood pride comes in. That's the state representative when you go and leave, that um, everybody can reach back and remember when you were a young girl and now you're an adult and you're doing great. They have no choice but to support you.
right.
And the fact that your name was in main event's mouth, who's still talking on here right now.
That's crazy to me. Like, I grew up, watching him on TV and just being so in love with the N1 mixtapes. And it was just so many, of course it was so many talented players, but I always, something about him just felt different. And I couldn't pinpoint it when I was younger, but it was just like not only his game and his athletic ability and him being one of the best basketball players that I've ever seen. But it was just something about him, like spiritually, and the knowledge that he would kick on those mixtapes was just so different than anything else that I was hearing from other people. And so just growing up with that, and I've never met him. We've talked through DMs and we talked on the phone before, but I just feel so connected to him in a certain way. So for him to kind of throw the alley hoop to even for me to even be here is just amazing.
Listen, we had the same thing. All I've seen was main event on the mixtapes. And I said this before. He told me, I interviewed Shane the Dribble Machine.
Mhm.
Shane said, you need to talk to main event. And he's like, yeah, he'll get on. And I talked to main event. And at the time, I had just lost my job.
Oh wow.
I'm trying not to mess up my makeup.
I
So
feel
I had just lost my job, and Maine was like, it's some big things coming down the pipe, sis. Send me your resume. So I sent the resume, and he was like, don't worry about it. And the next day, I get an email about what's coming down the pipe. And he said, I got you, sis. And from that point on, he has put me in a role. And it was, I'm like, you didn't have to do this at all.
yeah.
He still, to this day, I've never met main event in person, not yet, but he didn't have to. And he was just like, everything happened for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. And so
Absolutely.
again, we had the same similar situations that he put us together.
Right.
That you got the platform, she got all of this. Y'all need to talk. And here we are today because of the heart of main event.
Right.
They portrayed him sometimes like he was crazy on the show, and I did tell him that. And come to find out, he's probably the sweetest person that will take his shirt off for you.
Right.
Make
But it's
sure.
like one of the things that sticks out to me is his he always took time to interact with the not only just the fans but the youth. And it was I can't remember what episode, but I think it was they were traveling somewhere, and I think they had gone to the N1 warehouse, and it was real early in the morning, and he seemed like hella irritated because he was like, he said, and he was mad about just them having to be up early, and they just kind of at the warehouse just kind of walking around and meeting people. But
No,
he was
actually, what happened? Because I asked him about that. He said
okay.
they gave them an option, and when they woke up, they were there. That wasn't the option they picked.
Got
So
you.
yeah, he was upset.
Got you. And then, but then he was like, well, if it was, if I saw some kids, then I would have put a smile on my face and stuff like that. So, like I said, his spirit and the image that he portrayed, which I know is really him because I've experienced it, was just so different than anything that I've ever felt. And just like I call him my OG, like his guidance and the things that he puts on social media and what he does for the community and how he's moving with his businesses and everything. He's just a huge inspiration for me.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree. I'm if I can at 9 o'clock, him and Mark Bullock are praying um, every day. They don't take a day off, even in the tests and trials that they go through. They're
Mhm.
up praying on top of the morning. So if you guys are on Facebook, top of the morning, with Wally Dixon and Mark Bullock, they're up for men up praying at 9 o'clock every day, making sure that the prayers, even if it's only 15 minutes, even sometimes 10, 5, however, they're on there praying. Again, I just pray great success for you. Um, I know for sure that everything is gonna blow up. Next thing I know, I'll be like, remember when that we
Oh
had this
no.
interview?
It's all it's if it's like if it's in God's plan, it'll happen for me. I know that everything that I accomplish and where I'm at is everything that I'm called to be. So I appreciate that.
Listen, when you do good and you are good, good always comes back. And it's not always the way you think.
Right.
And because you never know who knows who, and this conversation, this door just opened, you don't know who's on the other side of the door.
Exactly. That's why I try to keep my stay my genuine and humble self. And just like I said, just keep a humble spirit and just try to go move upward and onward and take a couple people with me.
Absolutely. And so I know an hour goes past so fast when you're having fun. Um, but again, I appreciate you. I will definitely be keeping tabs on you, especially I have your email, I have your IG, I have all of these things. So
Yes,
definitely, I will be watching out. And the closer you get to your next step, I will definitely shout you out if I have to bring you back on so you can have the conversation. You always welcome to my platform.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the time and shout out to Maine. I love you. Um, just for having me on and being able to talk to you and have a real conversation. So I really appreciate that.
So before you go, let them know how they can get in touch with you, how they can find you, so
So
they
I'm
can
on
support you.
So I'm on all social media platforms. I'm much more active on Instagram and Twitter. Both of them have the hashtag, not the hashtag, Lord have mercy, the underscore Ria Young. So that's underscore RIAYOUNG. And you can follow me. I'm very active. I try to talk to everybody who DMs me or send some love, or I try to make sure that I can stay connected to the people. So that's how everybody can keep up with me.
All right. So I want everybody to like, share, tag somebody in this video. Again, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, it is Keeping It Real Conversations with Sunshine. Please subscribe. Please keep her in your prayers, push her, support her, so we can get some more people out here to support her as well as get her into all the for what she do. Amen.
Amen.
So I will see you soon, honey.
All right. You have a great night.
All right, you too. All right, bye.
Bye.